content creation. As you can see, this isn't a live presentation. It originally was going to be, but I'm going to be doing some traveling and the schedule didn't end up working out the way that I thought it was going to, but I also didn't want to leave you empty-handed or have to like, cancel or reschedule anything. I want to make it worth your time. So although this isn't live, doesn't mean that we're not going to have a webinar, some great conversations going. And I also want to give you some kind of value. So I am actually a little bit ahead of myself. So let's just dial back. Like I said, today's presentation is all about content creation, strategies for engagement, conversion, and more, presented by yours truly. So we're going to be diving into more of like an overview of content creation, what engagement looks like, what techniques and strategies you can use to be consistent in your content creation. We're going to be kind of briefly going over different platforms. If you have specific questions about platforms or best practices for social media or content creation, definitely leave a comment with your questions down below, or you can reach out to me directly. My email is going to be at the end of this presentation, or you can just DM me on any of my social platforms also at the end of this presentation. So let's go ahead and just get right into it. I want to make this worth your time. Mastering content creation. So the first thing that you got to know is that this is part of a series that I'm doing. This is topic number 3 of 6. I've spoken about defining your target audience. I've spoken about building a brand, like an authorpreneur brand. This one is all about content creation. The next one is content repurposing, which I'm going to be bringing in a guest speaker for that, which is really freaking exciting. Her name's Pooja, and that's her brand name is called The Content Repurposer. She's amazing at that kind of thing. And then after that, it's a lot of data and analytics and stuff. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, definitely stick around or just bop to the end to get more details and information on that. It is intended primarily for nonfiction authors, business owners, entrepreneurs, or anyone wanting to solidify themselves as a brand. I know brand can be kind of a funny word in the creative space, but my argument is that if you're trying to teach something, share something, bring awareness to something, sell something, I argue that that is a big part of what contributes to a brand. So feel free to ask questions in the description, in the chat, DM me directly if you'd like. Otherwise, I want to give you a little bit of context as to who I am, some objectives that we have, and then we'll dive into the meat of the hamburger that is this presentation. So there's 3 things that I'm going to promise to do by the end of our time together, assuming you stick around and watch the whole thing. First one is that you're going to be able to identify what makes content engaging in the what am I trying to say? In the attention economy. It's a very competitive landscape. Number 2 is utilizing helpful tools and techniques to maintain consistency with your content marketing efforts. Number 3 is leveraging storytelling techniques to make more of an impact. So assessing and applying strategies to help with any of your own efforts. So this is very high level. If there are specific things you want me to dive into, please let me know. Otherwise, let's just get right into it. So if you don't know who I am, that's totally cool. I'm not offended. I'm an author, I'm a YouTuber, and I'm a content marketer. So I wrote a book called The Finer Things Club. It's a coming of age memoir about my experience working in Yellowstone National Park as a young adult. Feel free to check that out if you want. I'm a YouTuber where I educate authorpreneurs, nonfiction authors, business owners, same kind of group of people on the power of combining storytelling with digital marketing to create a heck of an impact with whoever it is you're trying to reach. And then on the business side of things, the type of one-on-one work that I do is I help entrepreneurs and small service-based business owners increase their visibility through various forms of content marketing, books being my biggest specialty. So I really, really like the fulcrum point between books and business. That's my favorite place to hang out. I think a lot of really cool symbiotic conversations can come out of that kind of cross-pollination. I've delivered workshops and webinars before. This is not my first rodeo. I've done them at conferences, at libraries, on online platforms like this one. And then, like I said, I make a lot of YouTube videos. I post once a week. Be sure to check it out if that piques your interest. So I wanted to kind of kick things off with a quote. I thought that was kind of a good way to set the stage. This is a quote from Carmine Gallo's book called Talk Like TED. I've read most of it. I think it's pretty good. And he talks about, like the title implies, how to talk like TED, the people on the TED stages. And I think TED stands for technology, education, development, something like that. Please forgive me. But either way, he says the 18-minute rule, which is how long a typical TED Talk is, isn't simply a good exercise to learn discipline. It's critical to avoid overloading your audience. Remember, constrained presentations require more creativity. And the point that I'm trying to make with this quote is that whatever you do, make it worth people's time. Give them what they want, give them the answers that they need, provide value, make sure, wrapping it up in a very attractive way, whether it's a thumbnail, whether it's a clickbaity title, well, maybe not clickbaity, but a very intriguing title. If you're teaching something, if you're entertaining someone, and making sure that you're kind of executing on it in the best way that makes sense for your content, your niche, and your audience. So that's all stuff that we're going to be talking about later. But the point with this quote is to make it worth people's time. So be sure to check out that book too if you want to learn more about it. So as far as elements of engaging content, this is kind of like content 101, if you will. So really quick, what is engagement? It's the level of interaction and interest that a user demonstrates towards your brand, whether that's on your website, whether that's on your YouTube channel, if you have, I don't know, a Twitch channel, a Discord. I'm not sure what the right terminology for that is. If you're writing a blog, a newsletter, whatever, you want people to interact with it. And I am personally a believer that engagement can be more powerful than just straight numbers, like the number of followers you have, the number of subscribers that you have. It's really attractive to have big numbers like that, but to me, it doesn't really mean anything if you don't have any kind of relationship with the people who are following you, right? So I personally would rather have $1 than 100 pennies. I would rather have, 500 really engaged followers than 100,000 passive followers. So that's the purpose of engagement. It's all about interaction and interest. And these are some examples of what that looks like. This is not like the one-all be-all ultimate list. These are just a few forms of engagement. So the first one is an open rate. If you haven't heard of this before, it's basically a newsletter, how many people open your newsletter. Your watch time, if you're doing a lot of videos like on YouTube or something, for example, it's how long people are watching it. Average session duration, this is like if you have a website, how long are people checking it out, exploring, seeing your website. View duration, comments, shares, impressions. These are just examples of engagement that I was able to pull from some of my own platforms and a little bit of Googling. So just a kind of way to set the stage. Why does this matter? I've got a good handful of reasons for why engagement is so important when it comes to content creation. You get a lot of great feedback. If you build those relationships with or build and nurture those relationships that you're creating with the individuals that are a part of the mass, that is your growing audience, there's a lot of cool stuff that you can get. You can learn what they like, what they dislike, what they want to see more or less of. You get a lot of enhanced data. I'm a believer in tracking your data. If you want to know what works, what doesn't work from your own perspective, the numbers don't lie. I've never been a math student, but the thing that I can respect about numbers is that they don't lie, which is pretty cool. So if you're tracking your YouTube channel, if you're tracking your Instagram channel, your TikTok or whatever, check at those numbers on the back end if you haven't before, because they can give you a lot of cool answers if you take a minute to just kind of look at them. If you need help with interpreting them, there's all kinds of tutorials and stuff online. Check that out though if you haven't popped in that back end very often. You can build a stronger reputation because people like, know, and trust you. And because people like, know, and trust you, there's the opportunity for increased awareness. People have more of an idea of who you are, what you do, right? There was a quote that I saw on a LinkedIn page or a post or something somewhere that was like, the point of marketing, and I'm just paraphrasing here, they were like, the point of marketing is not to sell to them immediately, but they know who to go to when they're ready to buy. And, kind of tweak that to match what it is that you're wanting to do or what you're focusing on right now. But I think awareness is a really great place to start because, awareness, curiosity, those are all really, really great reactions to have. You can do a lot with that. And then finally, improved relationships, which I kind of mentioned before. It's a great opportunity to connect with people that you maybe don't know that really like what you're doing. They like your delivery style. They like your format. They like the content that you're producing in general. And it's just a great way to connect with people more deeply. I believe that it's worth going really deep on maybe one or two platforms rather than spreading yourself thin across 5 different ones. I don't feel like you need to be everywhere all at once. There's all kinds of like little tips and tricks for ways to appear that way. You can hire out different people and managers and virtual assistants and stuff, but If you're a one-man band, if you don't have a large team, if you're a small agency or something, then, I think having a lean, mean marketing team, even if that's just you as a one-man band, I think going deep, there's only good things that can come out of that. I would rather be really, really super well known in a very, very particular niche than I would being a celebrity where everyone knows me and I can't even go out to like buy my own groceries. So, that's just personally what I believe. So, elements of engaging content. These are three specific things that I think make engaging content. The first one, of course, being relevance. Is it timely? Is it specific to your audience? Like, is it something that people even want to see? Is it trending, right? These are just a few examples. And what I mean by timely is, maybe it's something that's going on in the news right now. Maybe different articles or, maybe there's a viral, like an article that went viral or something. Maybe there's a blog with a really catchy title. And I've used a lot of blogs and articles in my own YouTube efforts for like videos and stuff because, people don't quite know who I am yet, which is fine. I'm still building up my audience. So I leverage what other people have done historically that has done well and talk about it on my channel. I'm not stealing or plagiarizing or anything like that, but I'm saying, hey, I just came across this thing. These are my thoughts. Let's digest it together. What do you think, right? It's a very easy way to make content with stuff that's already working and already available out there. And the title's catchy. And if their title's catchy, it's going to make your title catchy. So those are just a few examples. Trending sounds, challenges, styles. It appeals to people's needs, interests, and challenges. Consistency. I'm going to be the one to tell you that consistency is a really, really big deal. And I know that I'm not the first person that you've probably heard that from. But consistency has to do with, maintaining a consistent tone or style or personality or visuals that contribute to your branding, right? Branding does not just have to be pretty colors, fonts, and logos. It's also an experience. It's a personality. It's an expectation. They're values, right? So maintaining consistency with those things and maybe representing them visually, which I actually, when I did my branding webinar video, I kind of dived into some of that. So check that out if you want. I think universal social handles are always a really great place to start. If your name is Jane Smith, making all your social media handles Jane Smith. My name is Lauren Erickson, but that name's taken. So I just chose the username that swapped out the O in my last name for a 0. And that's what I use for most of my stuff. And then, of course, frequency. Frequency is in posting is probably what you think of most immediately when you think of consistency. This can be the content itself that you're posting, having a upload schedule, which I'm going to be talking about later on in this video, the length, the content, all that stuff we're going to be diving into. And then the third one being value, that anything that you're doing, you are making it worth people's time. It's very, I could absolutely put together an entire 1-hour presentation talking about all the things that I love to talk about. I think that's a really great starting point if you're wanting to get into the game, but to keep people and retain people and keep them interested and coming back for more, that's when you have to make it more about them, which is something that I'm still learning for myself personally. It's very easy to not want to make a video talking about all the things that you really love to talk about. What does it matter if no one's going to stick around to watch it, right? So you're educating someone on something, you're entertaining someone, or there's even edutainment where it's kind of like a hybrid. It's a blend of both. So you're sharing tips, insights, tutorials, concepts. You're making people laugh or stick around with shock factor, with games, with humor, with drama. And then edutainment, I just put Crash Course History just as a very simple example with what's his face? John Green. So those are a few things of what makes content engaging. Sounds great, right? The question though is, how do you do that? Like how that makes sense to me, but what does this look like in execution? This is where we kind of start to talk about the different types of content. And I'm pretty sure this is the slide where I talk about it. Different communication types, right? How are you going to say what the thing is that you want to say, right? You can do this through textual communication. This is blogging, newsletters, reviews, testimonials, case studies. Those two are more for like if you're a business owner, posts, press releases. You have visual communication, which is videos, shorts, reels, webinars, live streams, photos, memes, thumbnails. And then you have auditory. And then I'm even going to plug in hybrid too, because sometimes these things can kind of overlap and they don't belong in just strict categories. So this might be podcasts, audiobooks. There's AV ads, audiovisual ads, infographics, slide decks are an example of something that use visual and textual communication. So These are some of the different ways that you can distribute that kind of content, that kind of engaging content, right? That's relevant, that's consistent, and that's valuable. Just go back here. And the thing that's important to remember too is, Lauren, how do I know which one to choose? If you don't if you're not immediately drawn to one of these, I think a really great starting point is to consider your audience, or the person that you want to attract, or the audience that you want to attract. Who are they? Where do they hang out? How do they like to get their information? If you are someone who personally, just as a human on earth, like to hang out on Reddit, maybe textual communication is your thing. If you're someone who loves watching YouTube videos, which is me, I really like watching YouTube videos, then, maybe visual communication is your thing. A lot of great, powerful educational tidbits can be found all over YouTube. A lot of people find educational how-to content on YouTube. So just consider what you're interested in, the kind of people that you want to attract, where they hang out, and maybe kind of find a happy medium. Just find a starting point, see what happens, see what works. So here's kind of a bit of a breakdown. I know that these are all the different types of communication methods, and each of these can correlate to a different social media platform, which is what this slide is going to be for. So for example, textual communication, blogging, newsletters, all that stuff, that might be better suited to platforms like Twitter, or X as it's called right now. I know that it's kind of a dangerous territory right now. Twitter's in a bit of a funky space. So if you're not a Twitter or X fan, maybe Threads is where you want to hang out. Or if you don't like Threads because it's a little more experimental, maybe you want to hang out on Reddit. And if you don't know what Threads is, it's an extension of Instagram that they launched within the past year or so. It's like the new Twitter. So these are very, very text heavy. Doesn't mean that it's all text. Sometimes there's videos and photos and stuff that circulate, but it's mostly text based. For visual stuff, maybe Snapchat is your preference, maybe Pinterest, maybe TikTok, maybe YouTube. If you're an auditory person, or your audience prefers to get things through hearing, maybe Clubhouse. Clubhouse is like an audio streaming platform. Maybe Spotify, maybe Discord. I'm not familiar with Discord. I know that a lot of gamers use it. But any of those you might want to try out if you have an audiobook, if you have a podcast or something. And then for, other platforms that kind of do a mix or a combination of one or all of these things, it might just be the classic Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn combination, right? Those are just those are ones where you can just do a status update. You can share video, you can share links, you can update photos, you can host events, all that stuff. You can do live streams. So it's kind of got a mix of stuff. So just a few examples of where each of these different communication styles land. And if you want to take it a step further, if you're like, Lauren, I kind of want more detailed information, don't worry, I already did that homework for you. So feel free to take a screenshot of this page if you want. I created this myself. I got a lot of this off ChatGPT, and also my own experience. So feel free to take a screenshot of this. But if you want like a demographic breakdown of who hangs out on what platform and what kind of content is generally accepted on that platform, this is going to be a really, really good slide for you. And it covers not all social platforms that are out there, but a lot of the major ones, right? You got Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Substack. I have a couple others like Discord and Snapchat and all that stuff. I'm going to leave a longer, like the full link to the full PDF in the description below. But take some time to look at this if you want. Otherwise, take a screenshot of it, whatever suits your fancy. And we'll head over to the next one. So I think this is where things start to get a little bit more technical. So when we're talking about being consistent with our content creation efforts, right? What helps with that is having a consistent upload schedule, not just like uploading itself, but also managing all the pieces that go into content. Because I feel like generally with marketing, but especially with content creation, whether for yourself, whether for a company you work for, whatever, I feel like it always ends up being harder than what people think it's going to be. It's like writing a book. It's like teaching a class. It's like making content. People always think it's easier than what it actually is. When they try it for themselves, they're like, oh, wow. Okay, this was a bit more, I think I bit off more than I can chew. Or, oh, I think I signed up for something that I didn't know, how intense it was going to be. So this is going to be just a little bit about how to manage some of those pieces. So why does this matter? Again, it has a lot to do with consistency. It keeps your audience engaged, reinforces your brand's presence. It shows that you're reliable. Not that people are sitting around waiting for the next piece of content to come out to be like, wow, they're a really reliable brand. I might start following them. No one thinks like that. But sort of subconsciously, if you see someone constantly showing up, or a brand constant, or a small business constantly showing up, or an author constantly showing up, it just sets a good tone, right? It to me feels like they follow through on what they're going to say, which is hard to do. Everyone tries their best, but generally it just makes you look good. So we're going to be going over a content pillar model, which has to do with the content itself, like the actual stuff that you talk about. This is kind of a good little method if you want to have like a branded concept board of topics that make sense for you. And then we're going to be talking about actual literal content management platforms and strategies for this. And all of these are free. All of these, you don't need to pay for them or anything. So this is an example of a content pillar model. And you have a general foundational topic at the top. You have maybe a good handful, 3 to 5 different supplemental topics, and then specific topics to talk about underneath it, right? So it's sort of like a pyramid. It's like top to bottom, generally what this looks like. So if you struggle with coming up with ideas or, things to talk about, depending on what platform you're on, depending on what niche you're on, this might be kind of a cool exercise. You don't really need to print a template or buy a template unless you want to. You can just grab a piece of paper, just grab something and you can just jot it down yourself. So this is like really, really super basic. Takes 5 minutes. So if you're like, that sounds really great in theory, what does it look like in actuality? Here's a really, really basic example. Hi, my name is Lauren. I love to talk about food. Here on this channel, we talk about fruits, vegetables, and meats and all the benefits. And each week, I'll pick out a specific fruit, vegetable, or meat to talk about, dive into each of their, advantages, disadvantages, and, as a bonus, how to prep for meals, throughout the week. So in this week's video, we're going to be talking about bananas, benefits of bananas, and ways that you can whatever, and then here's a recipe at the end, right? So it's just a way to kind of keep your content organized. It keeps it reliable, at least from the audience's perspective. It's on brand. It makes sense. It all goes together. I know people feel a little bit iffy sometimes about feeling boxed in by like the whole brand idea, right? Like, oh, I don't want to just be restricted to talking about these things, or, oh, I don't want to be restricted to just being known for this thing. It's not that you're restricting yourself. It's that you're telling people where you land, because if you're everywhere all at once, and I remember I don't go on Clubhouse much, but when I do, I did at one point, and there was a guy I remember in one of the rooms or conversations that I was in who wanted to start a podcast, but he didn't know where to start because he wanted to talk about everything. And everyone, like the hosts in that call or in that room that were trying to help him and give him advice, they're like, you got to figure out what kind of niche you're in, because it's like the old saying goes, right? The riches are in the niches or niches or however you say it. But it's so much more attractive if people know what to expect. The more convenient something is, the more predictable something is, the easier it is, the more attractive it is. That's why it feels like there's remakes that come out every other week. Why? Because they did well in the past. Why wouldn't we recycle that to do it again and, see success from it, right? So don't feel like you're getting boxed in. It's just a way to sort of organize your thoughts. It's a way to let people know who you are. It's a way to just become known for something. You're creating an association between yourself and this other thing that you're doing, right? Brene Brown with vulnerability, Marie Kondo with sparking joy, Tony Robbins with motivational speaking, right? You want to be known for something. What is that thing? And what conversations make sense that bring people back to that thing, right? So this is just a very general example. When I was making my YouTube channel, which I did it very accidentally. I'll kind of let you in on a little secret. I did not set out to make a YouTube channel. But what I did was I was very heavy on Instagram, and I was making a lot of reels on these, shorts, 30, 60-second little clips where I was using audio, trending audio that I thought to me was actually funny, because sometimes trending stuff is like not that good or not that funny and it gets annoying. So I would try to pick out audio that people liked and that gave myself a reaction, and I would lip sync to that audio, make it about books or writing or being an author or something, and then I would upload it. And I had a couple videos go viral as a result. And so I've thought to myself, I'm already making these clips. Why not just upload them to YouTube very passively? It's not too much extra work. It's just an extra step, nothing to it. So any video that I would make on Instagram, I would download, save to my phone, and then upload to YouTube. I didn't optimize anything. I didn't edit anything. If it cut off at the end, it cut off at the end. If it showed the whole thing, it showed the whole. I genuinely did not care. I was just uploading crap to YouTube. And when I checked back in after about, I don't know, 5 or 6 months, I saw that I had a few hundred subscribers on my channel. I was like, oh, okay. That tells me that there might be another audience on this platform. So once a week, I started making long form content about what people didn't know about books. Or if you want to publish a book, here's the stuff that you got to know that no one talks about. How do you get on a bestseller list? How do books make it to the front tables at Barnes and Noble? Anything that I personally had a question about as someone pursuing authorship, I would research it, make it a blog, make it a YouTube video. I would link both of those to each other. I would put my video in the blog and include the link in my YouTube video. And after a while doing that once a week, I grew my channel to about 1,200 subs in about 11 months. So when I say consistency, it really is about consistency. When people come across my channel, they think, oh, okay, she's like books or books and marketing, right? So it's very much an association game. Work with what you have. You don't need to like start a whole new thing. You don't need a whole box of crayons to like color a picture. You just need a couple to get you started, right? So this is the stuff that I used to talk about early on when I was making my YouTube channel. I like to talk about books. I talk more about books and marketing, more marketing that features books now, but I talked about writing and publishing and marketing. Those were like the three major pillars. And underneath those, I would talk about all these very specific topics that I would either find from articles or blogs, or, if there's something that I came across, or if there was a question that I had, or if I read a book that said something, I would just make content out of it. It was already there in front of me, and some of it did pretty well. So that's an example of a content pillar model. I used it for myself. I personally really liked it. I think it's a really great way to just stay organized. So the other thing that I did too, if you're not a content pillar model person or whatever, that's totally fine. Use ChatGPT, right? We're working smarter, not harder. If you want to work harder, go for it. But I know that we're all on limited time. People have stuff to do. We're students, we're working, we have kids, we have lives, we have families. There's 10,000 things going on. So I believe that ChatGPT can be a really great supplement to a bigger thing. I think it can be great if you want to use it for a very, very specific reason. So what I did was I asked ChatGPT, and this is just the free version, like, hey, I'm wanting to create some content for the next 3 months, post it about once a week for these channels. These are my goals. This is what I'm wanting. This is what I have set up so far. Can you just like spit out a content plan for me for the next 3 months, break it up in this way? And it did that. So I'll show you what this looks like. If you want to pause and read the whole thing, feel free. But it spat out content for me for July, August, and September, and it broke it up weekly for my YouTube channel. I'm playing around with Patreon right now. I have a Patreon. Shout out to David. He's the first person who signed up. It's $1 a month. But so it gives me content for YouTube, for Patreon, and any shorts that I want to make, right? If I want to help, kind of make short form content. And it spat out all this really great stuff. So that's great. What do you do with it? How do you get that organized? If you want to use a literal calendar, go for it. Walmart has them for like $5 or something. If you want to print off a free template at your local library, go for it. If you have a printer at home that works and isn't as cantankerous as mine, I'm really jealous of you. But for me personally, I took all this information and I put it in a Trello board. I don't know if you've heard of Trello. It's a free task management tool. I really like it. My fiance turned me on to it. And all of that information that ChatGPT gave me, the weekly content for 3 months, I took it and I organized it in this Trello board, right? So I'll kind of play this and you can kind of see how this works. I have 3 boards, July, August, September, and then one that says done, where it's like, check, already did that. Because I'm a checkbox person. I'm really organized. I like having a system. I do really well with processes. I know myself well enough to know that. So I split it up monthly. And then inside of each one, I have week 1, 2, 3, 4. And inside of each of these little weekly ones, you'll see that I set up a little checklist for myself. So for the first week of August, I need to do these things. And it's great because I don't have to spend extra time thinking each week about what I'm going to do. If a better topic comes along, great. Plug it out for a topic that I'm less excited about, right? So as you can see right here, I have one for YouTube, how to find your brand's voice, which I'm pretty sure that's uploaded in case that's of interest to you. Get a little clip, 60-second clip that I can distribute across Instagram and YouTube, Patreon, a couple things that I can do. And I'm someone who did it all myself. I was finding topics, I was scripting videos, I was recording videos, I was editing videos, I was uploading them to YouTube and then clipping them to go across platforms. It is such a huge time suck. I'm not gonna lie. I don't make videos full time, so it's expensive. My time is very well, my time isn't expensive, but it's a lot of work for me to do that every week. So now I have enough client work now that I very recently hired a video editor, which is really, really exciting. And he's gonna start doing that stuff for me. I get my time back because I feel like, I'm able to make more money and do the things that I need to do and keep providing value because that's off my plate. I can do it. I'm fine doing it, but it's not where my head needs to be. And I'm at a point where I can hire that out now. So I've got another guy doing that for me. And then I can put my head on, all these other things that I need to do, which I'm speaking more to the business owner or entrepreneur or solopreneur, if you're out there. So I hope that helps. Trello's free. There's plenty of upgrade options. It's the free version. You can make a bunch of these for free. So that's what I do. This is one from September, YouTube Shorts, Patreon. So that's what I do. This was a content calendar. The other method that I had that I used for a little bit, I didn't love it. I was more just playing around with it, and I made this myself because I couldn't find the right template that I wanted online. So very, very similar concept. I broke up each month into weeks and then created these little drop-down menus for each day of each week that allowed me to stay organized on the different statuses and types of content that I wanted to make, upload, schedule out, create, or whatever for each week throughout the month of January. So I'm going to pause or cancel out my sound because there's like a mower guy in the background. So I'm going to let past Lauren talk about this while I be quiet. This was a content calendar that I initially created for myself towards the end of 2023. I stopped using it at the start of this year because it wasn't sustainable for me personally. I do think something like this is really great for planning out very specific pieces of content or important events that you definitely for sure want to be prompt and on time with. So I'll briefly kind of show you how this works. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so you can kind of see. If I am planning out January for my month, I might go to one of my platforms. These are all the ones that I'm active on. And let's say that I'm planning an Instagram post in the form of, and I hop all these different types of formats, in the form of a, I don't know, let's just say a podcast clip. Maybe I was on a recent podcast. So maybe a note to myself would be clip from the best podcast ever. And then if I want to remind myself of where my status is with this, these are all the different statuses or stati, I don't know, that I created for myself. And maybe this is something that's in progress, right? That I'm working on having it be published on January 1st. Maybe that same day, I also want to push out a YouTube short. So I'm going to click on YouTube, click on the reel/short. Maybe this one is going to be about what to know about book launches. And this is something that is currently scheduled for release on January 1st. So this was something that I used for a fair number of months. But again, I didn't personally think it was super sustainable. But if it's something that you want to try out for yourself, I will be sure to leave a link that allows you to copy this page after this presentation, so you'll have access to that. Cool. Thank you, Past Lauren. So I hope you're able to see that. Basically, I would just have all these different platforms, the content type, any notes that I wanted to make, and then the status bar for each of those pieces of content. So I'll leave a link to this template in the description if you want to use it for yourself. This is a stats tracker for that was that. And then this is a social media stats tracker that I have used for the past 12 months. I think I bought it for $10 off the internet somewhere. And I really, really like it. And I go through all of my major platforms that I'm on every month and collect all the data from the past 30 to 31 days. And I personally really like doing this because I like having specific pieces of information that I can use for marketing and promotional purposes. So for example, if I want to get on a podcast or something, I apologize if you can hear the mowers in the background. My windows are open. If I wanted to get on a podcast or something, maybe it would make me look more attractive to say, hey, I have, I don't know, accumulated X number of watch hours on YouTube, or, oh, I have accumulated, X number of followers across all my platforms. So just an idea. If you like tracking data and this kind of thing, I think you'll really enjoy this video. So I'm going to let Past Lauren take it away again. This is a stats tracker for my various social media accounts that I've been using for about the past year, about 13 months, I would say. And I started collecting this back in July of last year. The most recent stats that I have are from July of this year, which at the time of my making this video was about a month ago. So as you can see, I've just kind of filled in all of the data, and I get this data by going to the back end of all of these profiles. So I'll go to YouTube just because that's the one that I'm most active on. It's my primary platform. So you can see kind of the back end and how I grab those numbers. I'm going to go to your channel.
Hey there, it's Lauren and welcome to my YouTube channel.
Manage videos. Pop over here on the left side to analytics. And then this is where I'm able to grab all of my data. I've had don't judge me, I've had a bit of a slower month. I've gotten a little bit busy, so my numbers are a bit down, but this is where I get all of my information. I can see my unique viewers, the number of subscribers that I've gained. Although the thing is I want to make sure that all of this data is representative of the month of July, not necessarily the last 28 days, because that gives me the range of July 9th to August 5th. So I'm going to click on July, and then I will get more accurate data that I can then plug into this spreadsheet right here, which you can see it all highlighted under the little yellow ticker. So I go into the back end of my Instagram, of my LinkedIn, of my website to grab these numbers, and I update it every month. There are other platforms that kind of give you a rundown, Social Blade being the one that comes to mind the most quickly, and it'll kind of give you similar facts and figures for a lot of very popular platforms. If I'm sticking with YouTube, I'll type in my username, search that, and then it'll pop out other kinds of stats and figures, right? It tells me how many uploads I have, subscriber count, video views. If I scroll further down, I can get more of like a timeline of numbers. But I personally just really like collecting my own data because I can see very, very specific types of growth versus maybe platforms like this where, you know, it's more of like the broad strokes. It ultimately just depends on what you're wanting to do, what you value. So I hope this helps. That's how I use the stats tracker. Awesome. We love it. So again, link for this is going to be in the description if you want it. Otherwise, what else do I have? That's it. That's all I got. And it's only been about, I don't know, 42-ish minutes, 42, 43 minutes. So I promised there were going to be 3 things that we would do by the end of this presentation. The first one being that we're going to identify what makes content engaging. And we did, right? It's about making something that's consistent, that's valuable, that's relevant, and providing it in the right type of delivery style, whether that's textual, whether that's audio, whether that's visual or a mix, depending on what you resonate with, what your audience resonates with, where you both hang out. Number 2, practicing consistency. We talked a little bit about content scheduling and management using the content pillar model, or if you wanted to use ChatGPT, you can use Trello, you can use content calendars. It's really just personal preference. And then the third thing that we did was leveraging different storytelling techniques, right? Which has to do with textual, visual, auditory, and hybrid communication, right? It's going to depending on the kind of platform that you're on. Branding can kind of help with that. Creating a brand image can help with personality, with tone, with rhythm, with flow. So if you want to learn more about that, check out my past webinar or even just videos on my YouTube channel where I talk about brand building stuff because I think brand building can be a pretty powerful tool, and it creates a really great experience for other people, whether you're creating something, selling something, teaching something, educating someone on something, any of those. So if you found this interesting, you might want to check out the next webinar. It's going to be all about content repurposing. That one is going to be live, unlike this one. The scheduling with travels and stuff didn't line up. Last minute changes happened. And I'm going to be doing that with a guest speaker, Pooja, who has a brand called The Content Repurposer. And she works with nonfiction authors, business leaders, thought leaders, people like that, and repurposes their textual content into other forms of communication mediums, whether it's, you know, visual, whether it's audio. She's made workshops based off of people's books before, which is kind of cool. So she's going to be hitting us with all kinds of value. That's going to be happening on September 5th at 12 Central. If you want to register, that link should work, I believe. Otherwise, link to that's in the description as well. And then the only other plug that I have is in February of next year in downtown Chicago. If you're not scared off by the snow and blizzard, you should come hang out at Creative Con. It's a creative business conference for entrepreneurs, for authors, for publishers, for podcasters, for TED speakers. We've had TED speakers before. We've had like media personalities there, Emmy nominated producers, really, really super cool stuff. So definitely check that out. I'll be giving a workshop there, and mingling around and meeting and hanging out with some really cool people. A lot of really cool people there. So check that out if that strikes your fancy. Early bird tickets are on sale. I think it's like 200 or something like that. Otherwise, this is all my contact information. If you have specific questions, if there's things you want to pick my brain about, you can find me on any of those platforms. I take all constructive feedback, whether positive or negative. As long as it's constructive, I would love to know your thoughts on how you thought I did, because I want to make it worth your time. If I need to cut back some places, let it fly some other places, let me know. Otherwise, that's all I have. I hope you felt like it was worth your time. Yeah, and check out some of my other videos if you haven't done that already. Consider subscribing if you like it enough. Otherwise, that's all I have. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and got something out of it, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. Take care. Until then, see you next time.